Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kira and today I have a book review for you. This was going to be my reading wrap up that I didn't post last Sunday because I only read one book last month and it was this book, The Girl in Cabin 13. I read it through Kindle Unlimited and I have a lot of thoughts. So I decided that since I only read one book last month, and instead of doing a reading wrap up on it, because I only read the one book, I'll just do a book review on it so that I still talk about the book on my channel. But then so here we go. We're doing a book review on this book. So to give you context as to why I picked up this book, I have Kindle Unlimited. I went to go cancel it and they were like, oh, stay with us for another 30 days and we'll give it to you for free. So I was like, cool, if you're going to give it to me for free, I'll keep it for another 30 days. And I really have this murder mystery story that I want to write. But my problem is I do not primarily read murder mystery thriller type stories. I read fantasy and or contemporary romance with like I read the other stuff, but it's not as intensely as fantasy and contemporary romance, and or things that have like romance elements or fantasy elements, that type of thing. So to be able to better write the book that I want to write, I was doing research, like reading books that are thrillers and mysteries. People died. There's FBI agents involved. I was doing research. I wanted to read recent books that had come out, and this book came out last year in December. It's a self-published book, but I was doing my research, They say to keep up with the trends, and you read what you write, and so I'm trying to read what I want to write, so I'm not this person who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about when I write my book. I was doing research! Well, this research went very poorly. That's how I came upon this book. So, the reason why I picked this book was because the synopsis really intrigued me. I was really pulled in. It was really well written. And none of the things that were, not the big thing that was delivered in the synopsis, did not happen in said book. So, I have this piece of paper over here. I printed off myself in the face. I printed off my Goodreads review, which is super lengthy, as a guide to help me through this video. Yeah, this is going to be one of those rant book reviews. I gave this book 2 stars. I did not enjoy this book. And my main reason for not enjoying this book is I did not like the main character. Which, naturally makes you not really enjoy books because most people want to like the main character. And if you don't like the main character and you go into it and you read the first couple of chapters and you don't really enjoy them, you're probably naturally not going to like the rest of the book. But I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. Because, there's some books that I've read where the beginning was really slow and I didn't like the beginning, but like the ending was awesome and it made up for the beginning being lackluster type of thing. Because like it happens the same way the other way. Like you read the beginning of the book and it's really awesome and then the ending was really lackluster. Or like the middle is really lackluster but like the beginning and the ending were really intriguing. Like, but this book wasn't that. The ending wasn't intriguing. The middle was just weird. The beginning was a lot. The main character is a lot. So, I'm not going to read you, because like when I do my book reviews on Goodreads, if you read any of them, I have the link to my Goodreads profile in the description if you want to be my friend, because I will accept your friend request, because I have like 4 friends on Goodreads, and one of them I've been friends with since 6th grade, so that says a lot about my friends on Goodreads. But when I write my reviews, I try to give like a short synopsis at the beginning of like what the book is about, and then I talk about the characters, and then I talk about why the plot was bad, or why the plot was good, or like why the plot was good in some areas and why it was bad. This plot was mainly bad in all areas, but we'll get to that. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to read you the synopsis off Goodreads so you can understand my confusion into reading this book when this is a synopsis that you are given. No, that's my... Okay, here we go. Holy shit, this is a lot. Why are synopsises so long? Have they always been this long? I feel like when I was younger they seemed really short. But like, they seem long now. As a writer, when you try to write them, it seems like a lot. But here we go. So, here's the book. Here's the description of the book. Knock knock. When Emma finds a dead body on her porch with her name written on the dead man's hand, she uncovers the sinister clue to the mystery that has haunted her since childhood. There's no discovered clue. You literally only... The man is mentioned like 3 times in the entire book. Hence why this description is really misleading, all right off the bat. The FBI agent Emma Griffin is sent undercover to a small, sleepy town of Feather Nest to uncover the truth behind the strings of disappearances that have left the town terrified. The town is located in Virginia because she's an FBI agent, so they talk about, like, Quantico, Virginia, you know. Like, if you watch Criminal Minds, they talk about Quantico all the time because that's, like, where the FBI headquarters are. If this is in Feather Nest, Virginia, I don't know if this is a real town or not. I never looked it up. Maybe I'll look that up sometime in this video. To Emma, there is nothing that can lay buried forever. Even though her own childhood has been plagued by deaths and disappearances, her mother's death, her father's disappearance, and her boyfriend's disappearance, that are all only mentioned a little bit. Like, it makes you think that while she's on this case, she's also uncovering things about herself, but she's not. You just get weird flashback scenes of, like, her when she's younger, remembering, like, good times with her dad, or, like, remembering when her mom's body was found, and, like, stuff like that, and it's weird. The only case that she hasn't solved, the only case that she hasn't solved is, like, everybody's disappearances and death. Her obsession with finding out the truth behind her past is what led her to join the FBI. Now she must face what may be her biggest case. In Cabin 13, there lies an uneasy feeling, the feeling of her movements being watched. When a knock on her door reveals a body on her porch, and her name written on a piece of paper in the dead man's hand, suddenly her worlds collide. With the past still haunting her, Emma must fight past her own demons to stop the body count from rising. No one ever... I didn't even think about that. No one ever goes missing the entire time that she's there. But honestly, I don't even really know how long she was there, because so much happens in such a short period of time. It's odd. It's weird. The woods have secrets. And this I don't know that word. Town has dark and murderous ones. Either she reveals them or risks them claiming her too. In Feather Nest, nothing is what it seems. The girl in Cabin 13 is about to find out that the dead may have secrets of their own, and The Girl in Cabin 13 is the first book in the mystery series. There's 6 books, and I was really intrigued by that, because I was like, oh cool, it's like a whole series, and I can read all of them. I didn't read the rest of them, naturally. So, getting into the review, starting off with Emma, where her name's Emma Griffin, and you know that she's an FBI agent, and this was my same problem with the Avery Black mysteries. What was it called? Cause to Kill. I read that book a while back. For some reason, authors really like to write in mystery books, anything involving, like, a woman being a police officer, that for some reason all of the men are out to get them. All of the men think that they're incompetent and they can't do their job because they're overly emotional and, like, blah, 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 and all the men are giant jerks and are like, so when you fuck this up, I'll come in and I'll do the case for you and all that stuff. So, like, in Avery Black, it was just, like, it was ridiculous and, like, she was clearly not any of those things. The problem that I have with Emma is she's all of those things combined into one person. Like, every misconception that people have about women, of us being over-emotional, we overreact to things, we're angry all the time, we can't control ourselves, we couldn't possibly be a police officer because, like, what if we shoot someone on accident, like, stuff like that. She is that person, and it was frustrating because she literally thinks that all of the men are out to get her, but it's because she literally is terrible at her job. So the book immediately throws you into a case where they're undercover, and she blows it, like, completely out of the water. And you're just like, what the fuck? So, talking about Emma, my things that I have in here is that she lets her emotions get the better of her, and she bullies her way into situations that she has no right to be in. Because the beginning of the book starts out with her, it throws you right into this case that she is undercover in with, like, 3 or 4 other cops. And they've been undercover trying to get close to this guy because he is, like, a child molester and, like, a murderer or something like that. And they were trying to get close to him to record conversations to get him to admit to the things that he did so they could arrest him. And then when he was like, I never said that, they could be like, well, bam, you said this to blah, blah, didn't you? Well, I was blah, blah, or, like, whatever, like, that type of thing. Like, you know, they go undercover and they find information. But she gets angry randomly and just decides to beat the shit out of this guy and, like, chase him down. She beats the shit out of him. He tries to get in his car. He almost kills her and, like, the other guys that she's on the force with. And so naturally, she gets taken out of the field because she's fucking crazy. And then you find out that she wasn't even supposed to be a part of the mission in the first place. She bullied her way into the mission and then proceeded to blow it after they'd been undercover for like 3 months. Like, what the fuck? And it's just like, she just continues from there to just prove that this woman should not be allowed to be an FBI agent because she literally does not know how to do her job. So, there's that. And then, one of the things that really bugs me is she moves to this town and is giving them the story that she divorced her husband and he was abusive or something like that, and she's trying to start new, and someone in her family told her about this town and she thought it'd be a great place to start fresh because it was like in all this stuff. And so then she's here, and like 5 minutes into her being there, this guy shows up on her front porch and he's dead. So then of course the police show up and they're like, well, like, what the fuck are you doing in our town in the first place? Because, like, their town's small. And, like, I don't know if you've ever been in a small town, but everybody knows everybody. My grandma and grandpa lived in a small town in Nebraska where the population was literally, like, 300 people. And everybody knew everything about everybody. I would go places when I was younger, and they'd be like, oh, you're Mike's granddaughter. Like, everybody knew who everybody was, whether you knew who they were, because everybody talks to everybody. It's a small enough town that half the people work at half the stores that you go to. Like, the people at the post office live, like, down the road. That's what this is that's what this is like. Everybody knows everybody. So she shows up, and they're like, what the fuck is this person doing in our town? So then, naturally, they're on edge because people have been disappearing and coming up murdered for the past 2 years. And then this random lady just shows up and is like, oh, I'm gonna live in this cabin in the woods. Oh, a dead man showed up at my porch, but, like, I don't know who he is, and it's weird. And so she gets taken down to the station, and, like, they're like, you can't go back to your cabin until we clean up the scene, and blah, 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 we'll tell you when you can go back. And so then she goes to the local bar that's ran by this guy named Jake Logan. And he's, like, the town's nice guy, and he runs the bar, and when people get too drunk, he drives everybody home after he closes the bar down, and he's just, like, so great. And for some reason, she forms a relationship with him, like, 2 days into her being there. And I feel like it was for convenience of plot, because since he is so nice and charming, and everybody loves him, he then introduces her to everybody in the town, and gets her on everybody's good side in the town because, like, she's dating the town good guy, the bar owner. Everybody knows him since he was a kid, and his dad lived here, and his family lived here, and blah, 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 blah. And so, it's like, she's 3 days into being here. She hasn't discovered anything new about the case, and she's dating somebody when she's supposed to be undercover doing her job. This is the first time that she's been back in the field since the other thing happened for 6 months. And she called, what did she call it? I'm gonna look it up. I highlighted this because she called what happened the other time like an unfortunate incident or something like that when she blew the other case. And I was like, dude, it's not an unfortunate incident. You're the one that fucked it up. You're the unfortunate incident. She's on this train to this small town where then she's going to pick up this car that was planted there by the people and blah, 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 blah. And, oh yeah, 5% in. She's on this train. She is, like, giving you info dumps about, like, where she's going and, like, why, like, it time jumps 6 months later. She's giving you information of, like, where she's going, Feather Nest, and, like, the murders, and the blah, 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 and she's reading this newspaper over and over again, and the local police had refused FBI's help, so they decided to send her in undercover to, like, get information and collect stuff, and then, like, give it to them, and then they could, like, come in and, like, bust the place up type of thing. And so then she says this, like, in her inner monologue. She says, "This is the first time I've been allowed out in the field since the unfortunate incident during my last operation. The unfortunate incident where you beat the shit out of the dude that was supposed to be giving you information so you could arrest him. That unfortunate incident where you were undercover and you didn't know who the fuck you were, and then you just started to beat the shit out of him for no reason because you just got angry and couldn't control yourself. That unfortunate incident." So there's that. So So yeah, she forms a relationship with this bartender. And she has this intense hatred for, like, all things men. Anytime a man, like, looks at her, she's like, oh, that brooding stare that he has where his eyes harden and he looks at me. He's trying to intimidate me with his angry stare from across the room. I will not let him intimidate me. It's like all of the things are like that. Here, I have another quote from the book where she meets, oh no, it's so far away. Oh yeah, let this also be known on record. 15% of the way into the book, you can see it right here, 15% of the way, I guessed who the killer was. If that says to you about this book. Or maybe I'm just like a professional reader. Like, does anybody watch Dylan Is in Trouble and he says that he's a professional movie watcher when he predicts things are going to happen? Maybe I'm just a professional book reader and that's why I figured out who the killer was. But, am I just being, oh, there it is. Okay, so when she first meets the chief of police, his name's Chief LaRoche, which that's a name. I kind of really love it. But he gives her this handshake. You know how like some people have really firm handshakes? It's just like a thing they naturally do. So he gives her this handshake, and she says in her internal monologue, he gives the kind of unnecessarily firm handshake men tend to give when they want to exert some sort of dominance. That is literally her entire stance on every man in this book except for the bartender owner. Everybody is out to get her, wants to assert their dominance, wants to take over her case from the headquarters, wants to watch her fail, wants her to die. Everybody's out to get her. And I feel like part of it's just because she has trust issues because people just disappear or get murdered around her. But, like, girl, you need to calm down. And there's another part. Oh, yeah. So, continuing on with her hate for the chief of police, she goes wandering in the woods a lot, just, like, in the dark, knowing there's a killer on the loose, being kind of dumb. I'm surprised more people didn't figure out that she was FBI because of the way that she approached people and tried to, like, ask questions and stuff. So she just goes wandering around in the woods just a lot. In the middle of the night. She doesn't take, like, anything to protect herself, and then, like, freaks out because she thinks that someone's watching her, and then, like, runs back to her cabin, and she comes back to a note on her door being like, hey, when you get this note, can you come to the station? I need to talk to you. And she said there's no signature on the note, but there's no question about who wrote it. The only person in town who would want to speak with me or would have enough of an ego not to give his name or offer even a hint of respect to my schedule, Chief LaRoche. It's like, he said, when you get the note and when you have time, can you come down to the station so I can talk to you? He didn't say, where the fuck are you? I need you to come down to the station so I can talk to you. He was being as respectful as he could, considering the fact that he came by the cabin that you're staying in, and you weren't there. Anyways, so, moving in to past, we'll move past her deciding to date the bartender. He owns the bar named Teddy's. It, like, used to be his dad's bar, and then his dad died, and so then he took it over. And when she goes into the bar, she pretends like she doesn't know about the disappearances, and, like, hasn't heard about it, even though it's been, like, on national news, and she knows it's been on national news because she's part of the FBI. So you would think that she would, like, come in and maybe just kind of, like, express interest about it just because it's been on national news, and I don't know how you wouldn't hear about it. But, so then she starts asking questions, and, like, it's not just, like, subtle, like, hints into the conversation. Like, somehow the disappearances came up. She, like, sits down at the bar, and then she's like, yeah, so this dead guy was on my porch. And then they're like, what? And they're like, oh, hopefully it doesn't have something to do with the disappearances. And then she's like, oh, the disappearances? Are people dying in the town? And then the people are like, why do you want to know? It's like, girl, try to be a little bit more subtle. This is why undercover operations should take a long time, because you have to build the respect of these people and get them to trust you. And she comes waltzing in here and has been in the town for all of an hour, and a guy died on her front porch, and she's asking questions about all the other people who are come up either dead or have been missing for like 2 years, and just expects people to just give her answers. Then you get a lot, oh yeah, you move into her former relationship with Jake, and it spans over the short span of like 4 or 5 days, and they're like cuddling on each other and like kissing each other. And I was just really confused by it because it didn't really show any relationship growth between the two of them. And then all of a sudden it was like you skip to the next chapter and they were like holding hands and like walking through the snow while he was going to introduce her to everybody in the town because convenience of plot. And then Jake's dad's grave gets dug up. And then this is when shit just gets wild. So Jake's dad's grave gets dug up. And Jake has this weird, skewed point of view of his dad where he thinks his dad's this saint and that everybody should bow down to his dad because he was just such a nice guy. But there are some people in the town who are upset because his dad decided to bring up like some campaign against like a corrupt businesses that were happening in the town, and so like a lot of businesses like went out of business because of it. And so then like people didn't like his dad, but it was because his dad was doing the right thing. But then like later on you find out that his dad was like really a terrible person. He was like a drunk and abusive and all types of shit. So then she shows up at the she does this all the time. It drives me nuts. She shows up at the grave site where the grave is dug up and like the casket is busted open and his dad's remains are missing. His dad's been dead for like the past like 10 years or some shit like this. And the police are like, the chief comes up to her and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, what? What are you doing? He's asking you what you're doing here. Because every time something happens in the town that's out of place, you're always fucking there. And to him, you're not a fucking FBI agent. You're just this woman that moved into town and you're always in the middle of everybody's business. So don't ask him what he's doing there like he knows that you have some authority over him, because he doesn't know that. He thinks that he has some authority over you because he's the police. He's the, what the fuck? He's the chief of police. I don't know what the fuck I said before that. So then, after, oh yeah, so then one of the police officers is like, "You should talk to Jake about it, because like he shouldn't really be surprised that this happened." And then that's when Jake's like, "Oh my god, but this is a noble man," and blah 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 blah. And then they find the bones in the shed of this man that was supposed to be Jake's dad's like best friend, but the guy is like super old and worn down. And Emma kind of comes to the conclusion that he would never physically be able to dig up a grave, pull a casket out of it, pop the casket open, and then disappear with the bones, because it would be too taxing on his body because he's older, and eventually you get to a point where you can't do the same type of physical things that you could do when you were younger because your body is deteriorating pretty much because you're older. It happens. It's the way of life. But so then she decides to go to the guy's house later to like ask him questions about Jake's dad and stuff, but like comes across like she's not, it's so weird. She goes across everything like weird. She can't ever just make it like a normal scenario where like she sits down where she happens to go to the bar and sit down at the bar next to the guy that she wants to talk to and just strike up with a conversation with him and get him to trust her and just tell her things. She'll show up at people's houses and knock on their door and just start asking them questions like she's a police officer, and then get upset that they're showing resistance towards wanting to answer her questions when she's this woman who just moved into this town like a couple weeks ago, and no one knows to trust her because people have been coming up dead and murdered, and she just came into town and is asking all these questions about it. And a guy showed up on her porch dead, and no one knows if she actually killed him or not because she was the only person there when the guy died on her porch, and like all that type of stuff. And it's like she's upset because people don't just want to answer her questions, but it's like you don't have any, like, they don't have any reason to trust you, so why would they tell you the things that you want them to tell you? I just don't understand. But then the police find out about the guy on her porch. They find out that he was under like an alias name, and he was staying in a hotel of a town like 3 towns over. And so she goes to the town 3 towns over and pressures the receptionist into showing her security footage of the guy at the hotel. And like literally she saw the footage of like him like leaving the hotel the day that he died on our front porch, and like he never comes back. Like they were said, like she is like, is it a crime for me to want to know about the guy who died on my front porch? And the girl is like, ah, and like goes in the back, and then she's like, oh, she's probably gonna go get a manager. And the girl comes out with like the monitor and computer and is like, here's the footage. I guess I'll show you. There's no crime against wanting to know about the person who died on your front porch. And I'm like, what? Like, she just pressured you into, like, I don't know, breaking so many rules at your job. You could get fired. But then later on, she talks about the girl at the front desk, like, she owns the hotel. So then, like, you don't really, it's confusing. Because it's like, you think that she's just this receptionist and that she's just breaking the rules at her job just because she's dumb or scared because this 30-year-old woman is, like, peer pressuring her into showing her footage of this guy that died on her porch that you don't know, or she owns the hotel and doesn't really care to show the footage. But then while Emma's there, she sees Chief LaRoche. He's with some girl, so then she decides that she has the right to infringe on his, just all of his everything and start asking him questions. Well, she doesn't start asking him questions right away. She starts, like, looking into this girl and, like, goes, like, another town over and, like, finds where the girl works and, like, talks to the girl. And it's weird. But then, when she is leaving the hotel after pressuring the receptionist into showing her the footage, their gunshots go off in the parking lot at her. And so she dives into her car and stuff. And so then the receptionist comes running out and she's like, I called 911! Ah! And then Chief LaRoche shows up and just acts like he's, like, in the neighborhood, even though it's 3 towns over from where he is, and he has no jurisdiction of being there. But the receptionist knows him from him staying at the hotel, and just because they're a bunch of small towns, like, right by each other. And it's like, oh my god, there were gunshots, and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, who were they shooting at? And then the Emma crawls out from underneath their car, and it's like, it was me. And then he's like, why do you have to be at all of everything that happens like this? And then she's like, why are you here? And he's like, why does it matter? You're the one who just got shot out. Why do you care if I'm here? So that's the thing. And then later, Emma goes back to the hotel and steals, like, the binder book of all of the registration cards for rooms because she has no morals as a cop and just steals evidence. Then you go into her. Yeah, she does a lot of things where, in situations like where she gets shot at, she'll just start throwing questions in the chief's face back at him. Like, he'll be like, why were you here? And she'll be like, why are you here? And he'll be like, why are you covered in blood? And she'll be like, why are you covered in blood? And, like, just, like, throw all his questions back at him and then expect him to answer her when he doesn't know that she's FBI and doesn't know why she's here in the first place except for the story that she gave. And he has to know because he's police and he's investigating these situations. That's why he's asking you these questions. Don't get hostile and all defensive. And then she decides that everything that she's found, which isn't a lot, because she has a lot of these things where she'll just walk around and, like, pace around her cabin, or she'll go and wander through the woods and talk on the phone with her friends back in Quantico and mull over the same couple of things that she knows over and over and over again, but then she'll never come to new conclusions about it. She'll never have, like, an aha moment and blah, 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 unless she goes wandering in the woods and goes to places where people were literally murdered, and then she's like, oh, I need you to give me all of the footage off of the train, and then I'm going to watch all of it, and then be like, oh, well, I didn't find anything. I didn't find any footage, but I watched all of this. It was just, a lot of it was really weird. Like, she never comes to any conclusions to anything. But then she decides, based off of the limited stuff that she knows, that obviously Chief LaRoche is the killer and the person who is kidnapping all of these people. So then she starts making all the things that she's finding fit to him and what she wants, which is the opposite of what you do as a police officer. You do not find evidence that specifically links to the person that you want it to link to. You have to be open-minded. So then that's the thing. And then Jake disappears. But you already know that he's the killer. Well, I don't know. I already knew that he was the killer. Yeah, but then Jake disappears, and she was, like, trying to talk to him because she was finding holes in stories that he told her from his childhood and was putting things together and, like, freaked out on him. And then he gave her, like, an answer that made more sense, and so then she was like, oh, I'm gonna go over to his house and I'm gonna bake him a pie out of the stuff in his thing and we're gonna, like, make up and everything's gonna be okay. But then, like, he doesn't ever come home, and he was like, I just have to do a couple more runs of taking these people home, and then I'll be home. So then she goes to the bar after like a couple hours of him being gone, and there's blood everywhere. And so then she's freaking out because she's like, he's been kidnapped. And so then she goes trampsing through this bar that's like covered in blood, where she just thinks that he was in this gruesome fight with the killer and that he's obviously dead because there is way more blood than humanely possible to come out of a person. And she's touching everything, she's getting blood on herself, she's touching the walls, she's turning lights on, and then she goes to the police station and is like, where's Chief LaRoche? And is like, the receptionist is like, let me go get him for you. And she goes like trampsing through the station, goes into like, she just goes wherever the fuck she wants. Like, she doesn't care that they're like, well, you have to wait. She's like, no, I'm gonna fucking go down the hallway myself and I'll go find him because he's obviously here. Then they go over to the bar and they're like, yeah, he's probably dead because this is too much blood to come out of a person. And she's getting mad because the forensics team came in and they're collecting evidence wrong and blah, 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 blah. And so then then the chief is like, well, like, you need to calm down. And they're in the back room because she's like, Jake, what he does is before he takes someone home, he writes down in a notebook, like, what time he took the people home or whatever, as, like, an alibi for himself. And so then they're like, oh, let's go. She's like, let's go to the office, look at this notebook, because it'll tell us the last person that he was supposed to be taking home, and that's obviously who took him. But then she's like, obviously, he's the one that took him. So then they go back there, and obviously the last page of the notebook is, like, ripped out. And so then she decides this is a good time to tell Chief LaRoche all of the reasons why she knows that he's the killer, and giving him point-by-point things, telling him just straight up, like, this is why you're the killer, I know that you're the killer, I caught you, you bastard. And then he's like, no, like, this is why I was here, this is why this is this, and blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, oh. But I just don't understand, because I'm like, if he's the killer, why are you telling him? Why don't you give this information to your boss and the people back in Quantico so that they can come in and make the arrest instead of you telling the killer that you know that he's the killer and blowing the whole thing? Because what if he was the killer and you just told him all of the evidence that you have against him? So then if he goes on trial, he can give his lawyer or whoever is representing him all these stupid-ass alibis and shit as to why he wasn't there for all the things that you have to arrest him. I'm like, what? So then the chief is like, okay, we're going to take you back to your house because you're probably the next person that's ready to be attacked because you're the person who's closest to Jake, and blah, 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 blah. And so he's like, I'm going to take this police officer, is going to sit outside your house and stay patrol for you. And she's like, I'm not going to stay in my cabin. I'm going to do whatever I want. And he's like, no, please stay in your cabin. I'm begging you. So she stays in her cabin overnight and then decides just to leave. And the police officer is like, I was told to stay here and watch you. And she's like, I'm going to leave and fuck you and fuck everything that you stand for. And I think she goes to town for a little bit, but then she goes wandering into the woods because she starts getting like weird information. I think it was throughout the story? Or I think it was like all at once. She was getting like weird information from people that were like telling him, like Chief LaRoche, like telling her about like how fucked up Jake's family actually was, and like how fucked up his dad was, and that his mom and sister, no, Jake, I think Jake tells her that his mom and sister just like leave him and stuff. And so she goes wandering into the woods like she naturally does on her phone, and stumbles upon this old house that was Jake's family's old house. And she's like wandering through it, and she's like, I'm gonna go find Jake myself, and blah, 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 and he's obviously over here, and I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna solve this case myself, and blah, 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 because she's supposed to be solving the case herself. So then she goes wandering in this house, I don't really need that paper anymore, and ends up in this basement and gets shut behind this door that, like, they're like they have them in, like, hotels and then, like, some apartment complex where you have to have a key to the outside, but then, like, when it automatically closes, it doesn't open back up unless you have, like, a key to get out type of thing to, like, stop people from intruding. And so the door is set like that in this basement, and that's when she is put in the scene of all of the missing people. They're dead, and they're posed like family, and they're, like, stuffed and, like, taxidermied and, like, posed, and, like, they're, like, rotting, and there's, like, flies everywhere, and she's, like, choking on the smell. Then Jake shows up. She tries to run from him, and blah, 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 and then he gives her, like, the big bad killer speech, like, my family was terrible, and my mom and sister left me, and my dad was abusive to me, and blah, 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 and he's like, we would have been so good together, but you had to ruin it, and all this stuff. And so then she's trying to, like, run from him, and she had taken pictures of, like, all of the people, but since she was in the basement and, like, out in the woods, she had bad reception, and she was trying to email it to her 2 friends back at the base. And then he takes her upstairs, and his, like, old bedroom is, like, giving this, like, whole big speech. I think he has a gun. She starts the curtains on fire somehow. I don't remember specifically how. And then he like attacks her, or she attacks him, and they end up on the roof. And then she like falls off the roof and like blacks out. And then when she wakes up, her friend's like, "We got your pictures in the email, and like they got the guy, and like he's in the hospital, but like he's gonna be arrested for a long time, and blah 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 blah. Good job for solving the case." But like she didn't solve the case. She just happened upon the killer, because the killer was the dude that she was dating, and she just like happened upon the entire scene. Like she didn't mean to. She was just there and was like wandering through this house because she was like, "Oh, this has got to be where the killer is keeping Jake. I'm gonna find him." And she finds like the staircase like hidden behind this bookcase, and that's where all the dead people were, and blah 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 blah. And at one point she had told Jake that she thought the killer was Chief LaRoche, so then he specifically started to make things seem like it was him to lead her off of his trail. And all of the blood that was in the bar was blood that he had taken from the dead people that he had on display in the basement of this house, and it spread all over the bar, and he was going to make them think that he was disappeared or whatever, and then he was going to come back like 2 days later ragged and like beaten up and obviously starved, and be like he beat himself off from the killer and blah 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 blah. And it was just a lot. And so that's the plot. I said at the bottom of this, oh yeah, at the end of the book, Emma is the hero even though she didn't actually solve anything, and the only thing you find out about the dead dude on her porch is that he knew her parents who were dead and missing, which is true. The dead dude on her porch, you find out what his name is, you find out that he was staying in a hotel 3 towns over, and you find out that he knew her parents because she gives the name to, because he had like a fake name and like a fake address, and so she gives it to a friend back at Quantico, and he like looks it up, and they find a picture of the dead dude and her 2 parents together that she didn't know existed. And that's the only thing you hear about the dude. When in the synopsis, it makes you think that she finds out a lot more about her past and herself because this dead dude showed up on her porch, but she doesn't. Infuriating. And then I said, this book was a mess, to say the least. I was pulled in by the synopsis of this book on Amazon, but it did not deliver in any way, shape, or form. Which I agree with. Wholeheartedly. Yeah, I said, Jake gives this, ha, I'm the killer, here's my awful backstory speech. The only reason Emma is found is because the email she was trying to send finally sent when she had a signal. So, that's The Girl in Cabin 13. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars because I don't know why. There wasn't really any parts of this book that I enjoyed. I don't know. The writing was okay. You can tell that the purpose of this book was, because later on I was looking at the other books. This book is self-published, and you can tell that the purpose was to do a fast release. So the first book was out in December, the second one was December 2019. The second one was let out in January of this year. The next one was in February. The next one was in March, and then April, and the last one was in May. And all the books came out like boom, 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 like fast release. But I don't know, I feel like a lot more could have gone into this book, and a lot more could have not gone into this book. Like the personality that Emma has. Because she's not a good FBI agent, I feel. But yeah, so that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. The whole thing was very jumbled, and I apologize. I tried to stay on track as much as I could, but I don't really think I ever clearly told you when I was done talking about Emma and when I was talking about the plot. I just kind of went into it, because and I'm not telling you about any of the other characters. I literally put that, did I put that in here? Oh yeah, I said, she's the only character to care about because the rest of the characters suck. Not that she's any better, but you get stuck reading the book from her point of view. So, yeah, that's The Girl in Cabin 13. If you want to read it, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not going to put the link in the description below. If you have read any really bad books on Kindle Unlimited, please tell me in the description box. If you have any good mystery thriller books, like good mystery thriller books, mystery murder thriller books, please comment them in the description below so I don't have to go through this again, because clearly I'm not very good at picking out mystery thriller books, because so far the 2 that I have attempted to read or have read are bad. So there's that. If you enjoy videos like these, please give this video a thumbs up and I can keep making my rant book reviews. They are like the videos that do the best on my channel, so there's that. And if you like my face, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell because I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday, whether they're book reviews, writing vlogs, writing updates, anything. That's what I post. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!